Page 37, the snake. Actually, this is going to be pages 36 and 37 because I want to talk about page 36. They just didn't give it a piece of music with a name. So I'm going to include it in this video. At the top of page 36, I give you an example of the blues scale again for up here. Be able to go up or down on that. They're only showing you the up, be able to go down. In other words, you play it in retrograde. You'll read it the other direction. Yeah. Then in step 2, they're telling you to create a motif. We've talked about motifs before. They're just short musical ideas. In this case, it's 1 measure long, 4 beats. Using notes from the blues scale. And this could be anything. As long as you're using these notes, and as long as it's 4 beats long, and any rhythm, it's up to you, you got it. There are no wrong answers there, as long as you follow those rules. They're giving one where they're starting with the bottom note and they're playing the scale going down in 8th notes. Now I swing the 8th notes. Long, short, long. Because that is the blues style. I just have a habit of doing that. Then in step 3, they're giving you ideas of how to improvise on this motif. Whatever, and if you have a different motif, you just substitute yours for what they're doing. So for instance, the first measure is the motif itself. This is step 3 in the first line. Then for the second measure, they're going to repeat the motif again. That is a form of improvising, by the way. You have to play it again. Yeah. Then in the third measure, they're going to say, do it again, but this time do it an octave higher. And then in the last one, they just put on the ending, either where it's written or an octave higher. And the idea with the ending is you got to end, in this case, on a C, because this is a C blues scale. You got to end on a C. The last note has to be a C. The other notes can be anything they want. They're showing here. They added some syncopation in there. That's kind of neat. That last measure, if I take out the tie and play all the notes, but they put in a tie there and syncopate it. That's cool. You could add syncopation to these other things too. So then on step 3 and the second line, they're telling you to fill in the 2 middle measures based on their instructions. So your motif they're giving you is the first measure, is this one. Watch the fingering. That's the motif. So what we're going to do in the second measure is we're going to play it again, exactly the same, just going to repeat it. In the third measure we're going to play it again, but this time an octave higher. And then the last measure they give you the ending, and the ending can be anything you want. You just got to end on C, the note C. It could be here or here. Either way, that's the notes they give you. You can make up your own ending if you want. Now they have repeat signs on there, so they play them again. That's why I'm not going to bother with that. Let's go on to step 4. Step 4, and the first time they want you to improvise using the exact repetition in measures 2 and 3. So, in other words, your first measure is this, which means measure 2, I'm going to play the exact same thing. And in measure 3, I'm going to play it again. And then measure 4 is the ending. I just got to end on a C. It can be anything, but I'm going to... That's the first time you play it. Notice the repeat sign, we're going to repeat it. In this case, it looks like we're going to play it 3 times. And the second time, they want you to improvise using 8VA in measures 2, 3, and 4. So the first measure is here, but then for the rest of the line, now I'm going to play it up here. And I'm going to play exactly the same thing. And it's like the first time, exactly the same thing, except now I'm an octave higher. Again, and then end it. My interpretation of the third time is you can adjust when you go 8VA. You're going to do the exact repetition each time, but where you play it is up to you. You could play the first measure, play it where it's written, But then in the second measure you could play it there again, or you could come up. In the third measure you could play it high, or you could come back down. And in the last measure you're either playing it where it's written or an octave higher. That's it. All we're doing is giving you ideas on improvising. We'll add more ideas later. We've already had some, because you know you can improvise on dynamics too. Changing the dynamics and playing with those, that's improvising. And I don't know if they've told you yet, you can improvise on articulation. So you could put in some staccatos or different things and play around with that. That's improvising too. For the acoustic jamming thing at the bottom, I'm going to play that line twice so that you can play this line, this last line in the piece where you're playing both hands, play it twice and improvise on those middle measures as you want, along with the acoustic jamming at the bottom that I'm going to do, and you can hear a duet. Again, if you have a piano player or a bass guitar player or somebody who can play those notes at the bottom on whatever instrument, it doesn't matter, it could be a tuba for all I care. String bass is nice. Have them play along with you and see if you can do that. So let's go ahead and do this acoustic jamming at the bottom of the page. So go ahead and put your hands where they go. I'll give us 4 counts. Now let's play. 1, 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 1, and 2. For the snake, well, let's just talk about it first. Let's just start at the beginning in the right hand. Playing it as written, you just got eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's tied, okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The third measure. Now, I'm ending the second measure on the second finger, so I'm just going to go up. It's okay. You can have a little silence there. They didn't put in phrasing, but it's between phrases. And that's pretty much all it is. Second line, third measure over, you've got just blue scale going. So that shouldn't be a problem, I'm hoping. Now when you get down to the third line and the fourth line, you got to improvise some things. They don't give you the notes in the right hand, but they're telling you what to do, so hopefully you can just fill it in. The idea is you have to think, this is what I want to do, without actually having the notes in front of you. That's what improvising is about. So they don't tell you the notes, they just tell you what to do, and you have to, oh okay, I'm doing that. That's part of training the brain to think about notes and getting out of the music. You're not looking at the music, you're looking at the keyboard and thinking of what you want to do here. You're thinking in musical motifs. You're thinking in patterns of notes. Third line down, first 2 measures is the motif. It's a 2-measure motif this time. In the past it's always been a 1 measure. But the motif is there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm not crazy about it, but that's what it is. Okay. Then starting at measure 11. You see the 11 with the box around? That's a measure number. They do that sometimes, so you can refer to measure numbers if you want to. They tell you to improvise by repeating that motif. So we're just going to play the first 2 measures again. There, here. 2, rest. Then go down to the last line there at measure 13. Now they want you to improvise by repeating the motif again. Okay. And then you'd play the rest of the notes. Now, at the top of the page, they're telling you that you can do the exact repetition like we just did, or you can play those in 8VA, or an octave higher if you'd rather, or a combination of both. It's up to you. So you might do, starting at measure 11, you might play those notes up here. And then at measure 13, you might come back down, or the other way around. It's up to you where you play it, on which of those. For the left hand, it's mainly just rhythm and harmony. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. The last measure of the first line, you have a tied eighth notes in there, but if you want to start learning it by leaving out the tie and play all the notes, it's okay. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 is how that is. Then put the tie back in because that adds the syncopation. I mean, the right hand is tied there too, so that helps a little bit. Just make sure the right hand comes up on beat 4. So those last two eighth notes are by themselves. There's no right hand there. That's the only really tricky part about the left hand. The rest of it is pretty straightforward, I think. At the bottom of the page, the acoustic jamming, they're telling you you can play this. Try playing the left hand an octave lower. Down here. Or, if you have another person around, have them play the left hand an octave lower at the same time you play it here. They're playing it here. That's fine too. Now, for the electronic part, if you have the electronic rhythm and all that going on, they say rock or jazz, so if you set it on rock, play it this way. If you set it on jazz, swing them. Etc. And have fun with it. Now at the top it says lazy style. That I didn't play it lazy style right then. I had a little too much energy going on, which is unusual for me actually. Lazy style is more my style. It's just a laid back, have fun with typical blues, right? Bring out the right hand. Notice I tried to do that. Yeah, bring out the right hand. Let's try this together slowly. Now when we do this, play with me together and we get down to the last two lines. On those measures where you're supposed to improvise and add those stuff, I'm not going to play anything because you play what you're supposed to play in whatever octave you're going to play it in. That's up to you. I'm only going to play the left hand for those 4 measures. Now there is a DCL fine at the bottom, so we're going to go back up and we're going to do the first 2 lines again because that's where the fine is, the end of the second line. So put your hands where they go, here and here. I'll give us 4 counts. I'm going to do this in a blues style. I'm going to swing the eighth notes. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Rest. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. To the top